Hi, and welcome to Reed's Audio Reading. I'm Reed, and I hope you enjoy my channel. Today I'll be reading the Greyhawk Castle Dungeon module EXE1 Dungeonland, specifically chapters 5, 6, and extras. This module was written by Gary Gygax. Chapter 5 The Wilds of Dungeonland. You have passed from one strange area to a place less odd, but certainly just as different. Never have you seen trees and undergrowth like those around you. You glimpse briefly a few birds and animals that seem quite large and are strangely colored. This is indeed likely to prove to be an unusual place for adventuring. A. Meadow. The path gives into a long, narrow meadow, grassy and dotted with wild flowers. Some of the plants appear unnaturally large, thistles 10 feet tall, milkweed as large as a man. Although the place is only 50 feet or so wide, it stretches away for some distance, appearing to become broader some way off. Giant dog. This creature is nearly as big as an elephant. It is coming down the path in leaps and bounds, curious about the small creatures ahead. It is not basically vicious, it will not attack unless molested. If not harmed, however, the dog will simply attempt to play with the party. There is a 1 in 20 chance that it will accidentally knock over a character as it sniffs and snaps playfully, and this will inflict 1 to 6 points of damage. If harmed in any way, the huge beast will certainly attack. On a score of 20, it will have grabbed its opponent in its jaws. In this case, it will turn and run away at double speed to its place behind Area C below. Meanwhile, inflicting 2 to 12 additional points of damage per round to a grasped victim. Once out of sight of the party, it will sit down and eat its prize. If the dog is given rations, 1 week's normal food, 2 weeks iron rations, it will gulp them down and then rest, ignoring the party thereafter. If a large stick, staff, or pole is hurled, the dog will play by fetching the object, tugging at it, etc. After a turn of this, the creature will tire of it, curl up near the forest edge, and go to sleep. Treasure. The giant dog has no treasure, but if players make a search of its furry form, they will discover 3 giant ticks. Giant ticks. SA initial hit indicates attachment and blood drain of 1 to 6 points, thereafter also 50% chance of inflicting disease on bitten characters. B. Imposing dwelling in a large clearing. The meadow leads you to a clearing about a bow shot long and some 2/3 as broad. Near where you stand, there is a large stone building, evidently the home of some important person. It vaguely resembles a castle, or perhaps a moat house, but there seems to be none of the actual defensive devices of either. As you observe the place, you notice liveried servants conversing near the rear entrance of the place. All but one return indoors, and that worthy now has seated himself comfortably on the lawn. Bullywog Footman. This frog like creature will relax even when the party is near, apparently trying his best to ignore the characters. He is actually alert and ready to spring to attack. He can converse in common tongue and will tell the party that they are at the manse of the noble woman, but that they must enter at their own risk. He will not announce them except for some consideration, of course. He will further warn the group that the mistress of the house is in a savage temper, but he will say nothing more. If bribed, he will call for the footman and the party will be escorted to see the noblewoman, her grace. If harmed, the creature will call out, and each round thereafter, 2 to 5 of his fellows will come to his aid until all 20 have joined combat. Thereafter, other reinforcements will come. 10 Kuatoan attendants. When a battle takes place, these doubtly fellows will gladly join in. From 2 to 5 will appear each round until all 10 have come. They are otherwise scattered about the 3 floors of the building, going about their duties. Cohentoen Butler. This fellow stands inside the front door. He will be the second to last of his party to join a melee at the rear of the palace, the first in front. He is otherwise civil and correct to polite callers, and will call for a bullywog footman to announce them. Kuatoan Major Domo. When any conflict takes place, the Major Domo will arrive last. With his total to hit bonus of +5, he is sure to strike frequently and with effect, causing d6 +8 total points of damage per hit until he has made 10 successful strikes with the staff. Then he will fight as if with a normal staff unless he can pick up a better weapon. In all other instances, the major domo stays near the Duchess, ready to protect her if needed. The Bullywogs and the Coatoans are the loyal servants of the mistress of the place. They cannot be subverted or otherwise made to serve the ends of the players. They are fanatical and will fight to the death. C. Large manse. This is the place where Her Grace lives. The Duchess. The Duchess is both stupid and unsound of mind. She is not evil, however, and she will not molest the party unless she is first attacked. In combat, the Duchess will spray the magical dust around on the first round, then attack on the second, with a similar routine thereafter. She is totally immune to the dust. There are a dozen applications of the stuff in the shaker, but each is sufficient to affect but a single creature at a time. If attacked, her associates will also join the fray, and they will do so immediately. Otherwise, the Duchess will converse inanely, make stupid remarks and suggestions, or simply ignore the party. The last attitude allows them run of the whole place. The Duchess has the following associates: Cook. The cook will say nothing, and she will not bother anyone unless she or the Duchess are molested. Baby, the werebore. Baby usually wears a dwemered robe, which makes him appear as if he were a swaddled human infant, and the Duchess does call him baby. At the first sight of attack upon the Duchess, he will turn into a werebore and attack the party. Otherwise, he will ignore the characters, and if the Duchess is not around, he will turn into a swine and trot off. The Smilodon Cat. The great cat will lurk near the Duchess, hidden by etherealness or invisibility, whenever the party is around. If they are hostile, the monster will appear and attack instantly. A general floor plan of the manse is shown below. The third story is taken up by a small servants' room of various sorts. Furnishings are comfortable and presentable, but they are not very valuable. In short, except for the passages in the cellar, the place isn't too interesting. Treasure. The Duchess has 9 pieces of jewelry, 6 of which she wears always, the other 3 when she dresses for royalty. All are made of gold and set with precious stones. If you desire, you may place with care additional items throughout the manse. Only the Duchess and the Smilodon cat will converse with the party members. Being rather vocoious, the Duchess will speak only about herself, household, and relations with the Queen. The Smilodon cat, assuming he is still alive, is more intelligent and practical. Once the adventurers are within the territory of his mistress, the huge feline will not attempt to harm them. If the party members seek information from him, the Smilodon cat will, in his own deranged manner, give some bits which might be useful. The beast will certainly encourage them to visit elsewhere, namely the Hatter. To this end, he will inform the party that he will show them the way if they will look for him outside the house. The small pond of water on the grounds is for the benefit of the Bullywog and Coatoan staff who serve the Duchess. If the party remain for any length of time at the manse, they will see one or other type of creature coming and going from the water. The pond is about 30 feet deep in the center, shallow around the verge, and has a nice reedy marsh area at its far end. There are various sorts of creatures living in it, typically aquatic forms such as crayfish, turtles, fish, and frogs. The pool is unremarkable. D. Toothy Smile and Path. A path, actually a narrow grassy meadow, leads from the manse of the Duchess. Following the path, the players will see the toothy smile of the Smilodon cat. If the cat is alive, he will say, "This way to the dwelling of the March Hare," or "Mad Hatter." Pick one for each path, as it makes no difference. Even if the huge feline is dead, this smile will remain. E. Lawn and House. As you step into the large cleared area, you notice a small sign bearing the initials MH. The sign points towards a strange building beyond. The walls of the dwelling are low and a mixed composition: brick, wood, plaster, stone. There are windows of all different shapes at odd angles and heights. There are no doors at all. The roof seems thatched, but the thatch is brownish and stands straight up, almost as if it were hair or fur. While your eye is drawn to such a strangely built house, something even more odd demands your attention. Set on the lawn in front of the house is an elegant table no less than 50 feet long, covered with white cloth. Scores of chairs are placed along both sides. At each place is a service of china plate, cup, and saucer, silverware, knife, fork, and teaspoon. Service dishes are spotted periodically along the table. There are small platters with some sort of cakes or rolls on them. There are small bowls with white bricks in them. Shallow dishes hold pieces of some sort of yellow vegetable or fruit. Diminutive pitchers are nearby also, but you can't see what they hold from where you stand. A strange human and two other creatures are clustered at the far end of this immense board. The human is pouring from a middle ewer, filling the cups set before him and his companions. At this moment, they notice your presence and all shout, "Sorry, no room here. Go somewhere else. No room, no room." The Mad Hatter. The Hatter is quite insane even in lucid, seemingly rational moments. He's also dangerously and highly unpredictable. He will attack with hats until he is actually attacked. Thereafter, he will begin open handed attacks, as noted above. As soon as he has taken more than 6 points of damage, he will use his healing ability to restore 3 to 6 hit points, 1d4 plus 2. His conversation will be strange indeed, asking riddles that have no answer, making inappropriate statements, asserting perverse logic, twisting questions, and so on, all interspersed with inquiries about tea, demands to move down the table to a fresh place, and interrupts to speak with the marsh hare or to the devil dormouse. The Hatter's headwear, so to speak, are all contained under a weird hat of holding he always wears. The hats he will pull out and toss upon a character's head are determined randomly. Only the opponent's dexterity and magical protections are considered in armor class when determination if the hatter hits with a hat toss, i.e., AC 10 less dexterity bonuses and magical protections. Other than armor, bracers, or cloaks, equals effective AC versus hat attack. The hatter's hats are die roll, hat drawn and tossed. 1 to 2. Hat of occupation. This type of headgear will cause the wearer to believe himself or herself to be of the class indicated by the hat. Note that this might not contradict the actual class of the player. Hat types are 1. Mitre of clericalism, 2. Helmet of fighting, 3. Cone of dwemercraft, and 4. Hood of thievery. Note that subclasses and classes not covered, i.e., druids, rangers, paladins, illusionists, assassins, monks, and bards, will be affected adversely through the degree of effect will vary. The hats may be removed only after one round, only by another character, and without any cooperation from the wearer. 3 to 5. Hat of imprisonment. This type of hat enlarges to cover the target character completely. It cannot be removed on the round, but thereafter the trapped character has the same chance for lifting it off as he or she does of opening doors. Note that associates can aid a trapped individual. 6. Hat of disguise. When tossed by the hatter, the covering will match that of the opponent or turn itself into some small item that will be 90% unnoticeable. On the following round, it will begin to function under its own power, making the wearer appear to be something or someone else. Thus, the character may appear to be the Hatter, another character, the Duchess, Cook, or so on. Use DM cleverness here to cause utmost confusion. The hat can be removed by anyone, but the wearer will see himself or herself naturally and will be unlikely to take off unnoticed headgear. If and when the hat is removed, it will remain in that form until it is unobserved, then change to a comb, ribbon, etc. Unlike the other hats of the Hatter, this magic item will last and behave normally after the Hatter is gone or dead. 7 to 8. Hat of Fools. This item takes the form of a hat or cap worn by clowns, jesters, jugglers, and the like. The wearer will immediately begin to caper and prance, almost as if he or she were affected by an Otto's irresistible dance spell. All other characters in the party must save versus paralysis or fall into fits of helpless mirth for 1 to 4 rounds. Only one such roll is necessary, however, and any character who succeeds in resisting the Dwemer can, as his own action for the next round, remove the headgear. This breaks the spell and ends the mirth immediately. 9 to 10. Executioner's Hood. SA 1 to 4 points slash round damage once attached. SD attachment to victim's head by fibrous strands makes removal or damage nearly impossible, except by inflicting similar damage upon the victim. See end of the module for further characteristics. When tossed upon a victim's head, this creature will be able to attack only if the character is not wearing a helmet or helm. The monster will attempt to crawl away if the head is armored. 11 to 12. Hats of Command. The wearer of this hat will be with self assurance and an overwhelming desire to take charge. As DM, simply begin directing questions to the individual, urging him or her to give the other players the benefit of his or her thinking. Comment favorably on whatever is said, etc. Encourage assumption of leadership by the individual's character, especially where it is obviously going to cause the party to act in an unfavorable manner. At the same time, the character's intelligence and wisdom drop by 4 points each, and his or her charisma is 18. Any loss of spells will be temporary, and the drop will not affect class/profession. The hat can be removed in 1 round by any other character. When it is taken off, the wearer returns to his prior statistics. Note: all hats, other than the hat of disguise, evaporate if the hatter is not within 220 feet or if he is slain. Only one hat of disguise can be in play at one time, although the hatter will draw another out after the other is no longer worn. The executioner's hood is a monster and not subject to the rule above. Treasure. Other than the hats, holding, and disguise, the hatter has one magic item. Hidden in the band of his hat of holding is what seems to be a card showing hat size 7 and 1/8. If this card is taken out and carefully examined, it will turn into a deck of many things. This deck has 4 threes in it. Each of which is drawn will cause the party to be transported instantly and the remainder of the deck to disappear. The 4 threes are 3 of D, numeral 1. Return to the scene of last adventure, the last previous encounter here, with everything as it was prior to your arrival. 3 of H, numeral 2. As above, but return is removed by 2 encounters. 3 of C, numeral 3. As above, but return is removed by 3 encounters. 3 of S, numeral 4. As above, but return is removed by 4 encounters. Treasure, etc., is lost, but damage suffered and spells cast are not regained. The Hatter has only one other item of value. The platinum ewer from which tea is poured is of fine workmanship and worth 4,000 gold. It will fill a small sack entirely. The March Hare. The hare is crazier than Hatter. The white rabbit Charldus quarreled with his fellow long ago, turning him into a hare. The senile archmage relented, but then mistook his permanent spell for dispel magic when trying to return his victim to his former state. The result is the March Hare, a man-sized human-appearing hare. Although the shock of his transformation made the fellow absolutely psychotic, he still remembers his former profession, that of a monk. If anyone molests him, or if they threaten to do so, he sits quietly at the tea party, occasionally making some pointless remark or chatting with his old companion, the Mad Hatter. He will attempt to converse with anyone sitting near him. Any character who begins discussing buttered watches, time, food, or anything else with this creature must make a saving throw versus spells or become confused as the spell for 2 to 8 rounds. Only time will remove this effect. If threatened or attacked, the March Hare will spring into action as a monk. He otherwise remains oddly removed and nonviolent. Treasure. The March Hare has nothing of value. The Dormouse. This monster has been cursed with a disease, a sleeping sickness that makes him lethargic at all times. This curse has changed the were-rat's disposition and unbalanced his mind also. Therefore, he will sit quietly, ignore harassment from his companions, and babble insanely most of the time. If attacked, the creature will uncover his sword and attack ferociously. Anyone who comes within 5 feet of the dormouse must save versus poison or be infected with the same disease he has. Only the infected character, being from outside Dungeonland, will fall into comatose slumber and remain so until a cure disease is cast upon him or her. A successful save indicates that the character exposed is not subject to the disease, and no further check should be made. Treasure. The dormouse has nothing of value. When the party comes near, the three will scowl but suggest that they sit down unless the adventurers have already done so. They will ask if the characters would like some tea, but none will ever be poured for the party. If characters decide to try some tea on their own, they will have to save versus poison. Failure indicates death, or of course, but saving successfully will give the character a 5% magic resistance or add 5% to any already existing resistance. This benefit will occur but once, but if the player drinks more tea, only death might possibly result, never additional magic resistance. While the Hatter and Hare chatter, they will harass the Dormouse, pouring tea on him, pinching and hitting him, and jabbing him. None of this activity will harm him because he is a were-rat. The Hatter and the Hare will be rude, insulting, and assertive. After about 2 rounds, the Hatter will begin tossing hats on the characters, choosing them at random. At this point, the Hare will certainly begin to seek conversation with another character. No actual attack will take place unless the party initiates combat. If the party opts to depart without combat, the trio at the table will not attempt to stop them. The house. If any characters decide to explore the home of the Mad Hatter, they will note that there is but one circular door, and that it is at the end of the place. Choose either end. The structure is about 30 feet wide and L-shaped. It seems to be at least 200 feet long. Some sparse furnishings are inside. Any uninvited guest entering the house will trigger a magical reaction. 3 rounds after players enter, the whole place will turn into a giant caterpillar. Digestive acid will pour from the walls, and the passage leading to the entrance will close. Characters inside begin by taking 1d4 points of acid damage on round 1, 2d4 on round 2, 3d4 on round 3, and etc. Escape is possible only by inflicting 300 points of damage on the house, use of some magical means to remove beyond it, or by insulation of any sort from the acid, such as ethernalness or cube of force. After 10 rounds, the caterpillar reverts to a normal dwelling, so to speak, and the remains of the party are tossed out the back door. F. Lawn and house. Read E above to your players. The March Hare and the Mad Hatter have the same initials and 5 in the same house. G. Huge tree. Not only is this tree large, but its huge trunk has door of highly polished wood in the center. The portal seems somehow familiar, perhaps because of its brass fittings and lever. If any party member opens a door, all characters within a 30 feet radius of him or her will be instantly transported to Area H. H. Long Hall. This place does look familiar. It is about 120 feet wide, twice as long, and its paneled walls reflect the light of dozens of candles burning there. At the far end are 4 doors, and nearby is a tiny door. The small door is locked. The room contains no table, size adjustment devices, or key. There are also 5 full-size portals along the length of each wall. North end doors. Any of these lead to Area I. East side doors. Any of these doors lead to Chapter 2, the Long Hall First View, complete with all items there initially and subject to change accordingly. West side doors. Same as those on the east side, entrance on the west wall. South side door. The small portal leads to Chapter 3, the Tiny Garden, although the party may not be able to get there. There is also nothing else in the hall. I. Park. As you step into this area, you are surprised to see its scope and activity. The area is a bow shot in width and a long bow shot in length. Beautiful rose trees border the area, and flower beds are sprinkled amid decorative trees and shrubs. The wide fairways between the plant beds and bordering vegetation are covered with perfect grass. Several groundskeepers in red and white livery are busily doing something to the rose trees. 10 groundskeepers. These are common humans, elderly males who have no interest in combat and seek only to please their rulers. They will speak civilly, even spoken to, but they will say little other than they serve the rulers of Courland, the king and queen. They will not shirk their duty. They will cease talking immediately when a soldier comes near. These workers are busy applying a magical pigment to the silver roses that grow on the trees. This paint-like substance turns the metal bright red for a few minutes and then the silver is transmuted into purest gold. Silver blossoms are worth 100 gold pieces each. Red gold ones are worth 2,000 gold pieces each. It takes a full round to pick one, and even then there is a 50% chance that the flower will be destroyed in the process. Each rose takes up about 3 cubic inches of space and weighs 10 pounds. There are 2 to 5 blooms per tree, and there are 10 rose trees scattered around the perimeter of the park. Each keeper is working on one tree, and it requires a full 3 turns to properly treat each silver rose. If the adventurers pick even one blossom, the groundskeepers will set up a hue and cry. This will alert the soldiers, and one will certainly run into the palace. 3 soldiers. Each soldier of this place wears a numeral in runes atop the red heart of Courland. The soldiers overseeing the work are 2, 3, and 5. In the event of trouble, Soldier 2 will go to bring help. Soldiers 3 and 5 will demand that the adventurers cease and desist despoiling the royal roses, stand quietly under arrest, and await the judgment of their majesties. In the case of any combat, both will fight until a superior commands them to stop. If the party uses caution, however, and does not begin looting, there will be a royal arrival sooner rather than later. If a battle does occur, Soldier 2 above will return with the following forces to see that it stops immediately. Number 4, 6, and 7. 20 crossbowmen. Again, combatants will be called upon to stop fighting and await judgment. If the battle continues, then the next party of arrivals, the royal party listed below, will join the fray, rather than ignoring trespassers and seeking a quiet game of diversion. The croquet party. The Queen of Courland. The queen is not too bright, and she tends to be forgetful. Her short attention span can be used to advantage. If a combat is in process, she will wade in with the flower-headed rod, or cast one or more spells as she deems best. If her life is seriously threatened, she will immediately retire to the palace. If, on the other hand, there is no fighting, the queen will greet the party royally, act as if they were expected, and command them to play croquet. Her spells. First level, Command, Cure Light Wounds, Sanctuary. Second levels, Hold Person, Resist Fire, and Silence. Third level, Continual Darkness, Dispel Magic, and Prayer. Fourth level, Cure Serious Wounds, Neutralize Poison, Sticks to Snakes. Fifth level, Flame Strike. And sixth level, Blade Barrier. Charidus, the Duchess, the Mad Hatter, the March Hare. Playing Croquet. Each character will be given a live flamingo with which to strike the balls. This 5 mallet will strike at the character holding it if he misses the ball by failing to score his or her dexterity score or under with 2d10. Each player will then be asked to hit the ball, a rolled up hedgehog. Fast when struck, HD 11, HP 6. SD, contact subject's attacker to 2 to 8 points of damage from quills. If a character misses, the flamingo mallet attacks him or her. If the player character hits the hedgehog ball, then there is a 2 in 6 chance that it will hit another character and inflict 2 and 8 points of quill damage. Each player's character must take at least 4 swings before the game is finished. When the croquet game is complete, then the queen will begin her demands for executing people. Off with their heads. The king and the executioner will then appear on the scene to argue with the queen about beheading the ethereal face of the Smilodon cat. The King of Courland. The king will be most clever and determined in any combat situation, although he is not evil and does not seek to cause harm if he is not thwarted or disobeyed. Because he is most loyal to such an irascible queen, his is a difficult position at times. The king will cast spells from a distance. In combat, he will use his wand, for it bears a permanent illusion of a bastard sword that bursts into flame when drawn and wielded. The wand has only 23 charges left, so he uses it sparingly. The king's spells are: first level, Change Self, Color Spray, Detect Invisibility, and Hypnotism. Second level, Blindness, Blur, Fog Cloud. Third level, Fear, Paralyzation, and Spectral Force. Fourth level, Confusion, Improved Invisibility, Phantasmal Killer. Fifth level, Chaos and Shadow Door. Sixth level, Mass Suggestion, Veil. And seventh level, Alter Reality. Illusions will generally be of troops of men at arms moving up to surround the party. Spells such as those that change or hide the king will be used to escape a hopeless situation, but only to a vantage point where he can alter reality to restore his associate and soldiers. Play the king with an 18 intelligence. With the king are the following: the executioner. This fellow will obey the king or queen in whatever they command of him. He's absolutely loyal and will fight to the death. He will not molest the party unless commanded, although if they flash unusually valuable items, he will be 50% likely to make an attempt to flitch them. 20 halberdiers are as well obeyed by the king and queen. Smilodon Cat. This creature, or its ghost, will have appeared on the croquet ground to smile at the queen. Since the queen has been threatening to imprison and or behead the duchess to whom the huge feline is loyal, this appearance will make the queen uneasy. She will call for the king to do something about the monster. He will call the executioner to remove the cat's head, all implication, of course, as the king realizes that the monster is no real threat. In the resulting confusion, the Smilodon cat or the Duchess, or both, will suggest to the party that they leave the turmoil hurriedly for fear of being included in the beheading orders. They will urge the adventurers to visit the sea for a time to allow things to cool down. The queen will be threatening, but unless the players actually initiate hostilities or are flagrantly abusive, they will be left unmolested. This is not to say that they won't be harassed, questioned, scolded, or ordered about. As in all of Dungeonland, what has gone before is forgotten, at least for the time. Bygones are just that, and it is a time that takes care of the matters at hand. From the Smilodon Cat to the Duchess, with the White Rabbit, March Hare, and Mad Hatter thrown in, this is a different occasion, and different behavior is in order. Even if the adventurers have initiated combat and then broken it off at some point, it is likely that they will be forgiven this breach if royalty has not been seriously harmed, of course. On the other hand, adventurers will get no aid from any inhabitants, other than that which have been indicated. They will not be cured or healed or brought back to life. What they gain is gained, what is lost is lost. J. Clearing and Griffin Statue. After following another of the party-like meadows for several hundred feet, your party emerges in a small clearing. Near its center is an upthrust rock from which has been sculpted a huge statue of a griffin. The griffin. This very large specimen is also quite intelligent. It is able to converse in the common tongue, as well as to detect thoughts. It appears to be a statue only because it is stone-colored and motionless in sleep. As soon as the party comes near, the monster will waken. At the same time, any escort from the croquet lawn will have the opportunity to depart unnoticed. The huge griffin will look at the party and then inquire if they are truly interested in gaining treasure, a thought certain to be at least one of the adventurer's mind. Without awaiting an answer, the monster will begin walking towards Area K. Of course, if the party considers attacking him, the monster will be warned and will take appropriate measures, flight or attack, as the situation warrants. If the party is generally cooperative, the griffin will lead them to meet his friend and associate at K. In any case, if there is battle, the griffin's friend will come to his aid, arriving in 9 rounds, after the initial round of melee, or standing by its friend if the griffin leaves at Area K. K. Giant bull-headed turtle sitting on a ledge. As you move through the forest meadow, the trees thin and give way to rocky ground. A steep cliff falls away to a shining blue body of water beyond, and nearby is a sloping place where wind and erosion have turned the cliff to a shady ramp that leads to the beach. Beside this sandy area, resting on a wide ledge of rock, sits a strange creature. It is a mixture of giant turtle and bull. It has a huge turtle body and forelegs, and the tail, hind legs, and head of some monstrous bovine. The griffin hails it warmly, stating that it is his friend. Those seeking treasure should certainly listen to the creature, for he knows where a vast treasure lies. The mock dragon turtle. This is another victim of the senile archmage. Chaldus cast a polymorph but never finished it properly, so the quarrelsome dragon turtle turned partially into our Gorgon. Although the monster is far different now, both sadder and wiser, Chaldus has not gotten around to putting things right. The mock dragon turtle is desperate to return to his proper form, so he will suggest that the party can gain treasure beyond belief if they follow his instructions and give him but one thing from all they gain, a coral and mother of pearl flask. The beast will explain he can no longer venture underwater, for his bull-like head can't stand the stuff. However, he can direct the party to a species of seaweed that will enable them to breathe underwater for several hours. All they need to do is eat a large helping of the plant, march into the water at the spot he indicates, and they will walk straight to the underwater grotto filled with pearls, coral, and other precious stuff. Of course, there might be some sort of guardians, but nothing that these brave adventurers cannot handle. Were he in his true form, he'd quickly recover his own treasure. If the party agrees to do the adventure for the mock dragon turtle, he and the griffin will lead them to Area L. L Beach. The waves of the sea wash rhythmically up, and at this spot they have piled a mound of purplish seaweed. It appears that nothing has passed this way since the tide began falling. If the mock dragon turtle is with the party, he will instruct them to eat some of this seaweed to gain the power of water breathing. If the adventurers decide to go into the water, their guide will tell them to proceed straight ahead for about 200 yards, and there they will find a marine grotto some 100 feet in diameter and about 30 feet below the surrounding ocean floor, a depth of about 2 or 3 fathoms. In the center of this grotto, they should look for a large slab of stone, the lid of a stony chest that contains the mock dragon's turtle's lost treasure. Again, all therein will be theirs without question of ownership, if they will only deliver him the coral and shell flask. The grotto. As promised, your passage underwater is uneventful. After about an hour of slow progress, you have come to a cup-like depression in the shallow seafloor. It is filled with rock, live coral, and gracefully swaying water plants. This must certainly be the grotto you were told would be here. 4 giant lobsters. These are simple marine versions of the giant crayfish. They dwell in the grotto for safety. If 2 or more are slain in the melee of the party, the remainder will flee. Treasure. The lid of stone opens to reveal a large hollow in the rocky floor. In this place are 200 pearls, base 10 gold piece value, 6 pieces of jewelry made of polished coral, a helmet with inscrolled shells, porpoises, and the like, helm of underwater action, a gold chalice set with pearls, 20,000 gold piece value, and the coral flask described by the mock dragon turtle. If anyone inquires about the latter item, it is stoppered with lead and bears runes of strange type, which radiate power. Huge merid. The merid is confined within the specially dwemered flask. If a player opens the container and states that the merid is freed with the understanding that he will not harm the individual and his or her associates and will grant a wish, the merid will most grudgingly use his alter reality spell to fulfill the wish expressed, perversely if possible, of course, and then depart as quickly as he can. Otherwise, the merid is 50% likely to attack his benefactor. If attack is not indicated, the creature will simply get away. Interaction with the mock dragon turtle. The turtle will be waiting on the beach when the party emerges from the water, and the griffin will be flying far above, spying on what the party is doing, but ready to dive and attack. If the party delivers the flask as agreed, the turtle will thank them and hurry off to a secluded spot where he can free the merid, have his form altered to that of a true dragon turtle, and return to his watery lair. If the party will not hand over the flask, or if they have freed the merid, the mock dragon turtle will breathe gorgon breath and otherwise viciously attack the party. The griffin will arrive in a power dive on round 2, doing double damage when he hits and having a +2 to hit probability. Both the turtle and the griffin will fight to the death in fury and despair. Unless the party has absolutely decimated the whole area or slain king and or queen, they will receive a summons to attend their royal highness and majesties at the palace. The summons will be delivered by one of the following, one who is alive and not engaged in a death struggle with the party: the griffin, the Smilodon cat, the duchess, any numerically designated soldier from 2 to 7. Whoever summons the party will then lead them to the palace. M. White Marble Palace. This imposing palace is 3 stories high and has several large towers and turrets that are taller still. The grounds around the palace are beautifully kept, and the walkway to the pillared entrance is made of alternating white and red marble slabs. There are other persons entering the palace, whom you glimpse just as you come in sight of the edifice. Your escort directs you to the main entrance, telling you that a special audience is being held to determine some great matter of state. Notes regarding map of the palace. Although the area could be of an adventure unto itself, this is Dungeonland. Things must flow and change suddenly and with seeming disregard to reason. Therefore, only the ground floor of the place is shown. You must prevent undue adventuring in this area, at least for the first trip through the module, because events must flow a certain way. The floor plan of the palace names the rooms and shows positions of various creatures who are there. In case you plan to have additional adventures in Dungeonland, the attic of the palace has servants' quarters and storerooms. The third floor has guest chambers and suites, and the numerically designated soldiers are quartered there. The second floor is for the royal family, including the Prince of Courland, Nav Jack. The royal champion is also quartered there. There are private dining rooms, salons, and so forth. The queens to the north, the kings to the south, all others in the quarter to the west. The kitchen towers upper 2 floors house guards, as do the upper floors of the square, NW, and chapel towers. Entry to the dungeon is by the staircase near the kitchen, although there could be a secret means of entrance, say from the court and or one of the towers, the former existing behind a secret door to the space under either of the ground staircases, the latter beneath a concealed trapdoor. In any event, the cellar immediately beneath the palace has an armory, wine room, food storage, ovens for baking, and general storerooms. The stairway keeps going down, however. About 40 feet below the ground is the dungeon area of the palace. There is a single long passageway with many doors. See map of the route of the fleeing prince. But this is not important, for the flow of play is past them. Hot on the trail of the escaping prince, the party will discover that there are 2 directions they can go. One to another encounter area where they begin adventuring in another allied realm, the land beyond the magic mirror, the other back to the start. If you do not have the second module handy, you should ignore the former passage. The party will follow the tunnel that takes them back to a version of Chapter 2, the Long Hall. The end of this corridor is a stairway that leads up to a secret trap door. Once players pass through this portal, the way vanishes, and they are drawn up the shaft and out of Dungeonland. Now back to the adventure at hand. Chapter 6, The Palace. You are led up to huge double doors that swing open as their uniformed guards come to attention. Inside are more guards in a large hall of rose and white marble. Columns reach upwards about 25 feet to support the ceiling. Across this hall you march, down a shallow flight of broad steps, 20 feet wide, and again pass through great doors guarded by men in red and white livery of Courland. In another moment you are in a vast hall, the royal court. Some 100 feet away you see a dais with a pair of thrones. The king and queen are seated there. Before them stands a richly dressed young man, handsome but arrogant. To either side are guards, soldiers, an odd assortment of others. The chamber is some 60 feet wide, all of shining white marble and gold. The dais is of red marble. Fluted columns of altering red and white stand near the doorway you have entered, and like steps are along the walls at either hand, for the doors that pierce the walls are about 4 feet above the floor of this chamber. You notice chairs of gold and white, each with a red cushion. Then you are summoned to come forward to speak with their majesties. The Prince, Jack of Corlin. Jack, Prince of Corlin, is the pampered and spoiled heir to the throne. Of course, he is rebellious, thus, he took thievery as a profession. His ability scores are pickpockets, 110%, find/remove traps, 80%, hide in shadows, 87%, climb walls, 99.2%, open locks, 92%, move silently, 104%, hear noise, 35%, and read languages, 60%. The prince has a number of secret adherents in the palace who will seek to aid him without revealing their loyalty. These followers are soldiers 2 and 9, the Mad Hatter, the March Hare, and certain of the men at arms on guard duty at the time. The party members called before the enthroned monarchs will be told that the prince, their own son, has been accused of a most serious crime, theft of the queen's own tarts. Naturally, this is not as it seems at all. The so-called tarts are actually a series of like replicas of desserts the queen has commissioned. Each of these dozen works is made of gold set with rubies and amber. Each is worth 20,000 gold pieces. On the small stand before the dais sits the remaining 8 objects. But the king and queen will not seriously contemplate any severe punishment for their heir apparent. If blame can be shifted, of course, to some strangers, let us say, then sentence might indeed be swift and fell. Set the players up as much as possible by remarking on rather festive air of the occasion. The Duchess and White Rabbit can be noticed in casual conversation with the March Hare and Mad Hatter. The Dormouse is conversing sleepily with the cook, who is holding the wrapped up baby, while Smilodon Cat appears here and there in partial form. The guards are leaning lazily on their halberds, while the numerical designated soldiers are in a huddled group playing a game of knucklebones. As the party is led up to the dais, the king will command the herald to read the charge. You might wish to start out by speaking the following slowly. The Queen of Hearts, if any player chimes in with anything resembling the verse. She made up some tarts all on a summer day. The Knave of Hearts. He stole those tarts and took them quite away. You have the whole party in the palm of your hand. Both the king and queen will demand to know how the party knew the charge. Others will begin to mutter and point at the adventurers. The prince will smile triumphantly and step to a position beside the speaking player's characters. He will then claim that he is guiltless, as pure as the driven snow. In fact, touching at least 2 of the party members, the prince will then turn to a position before the dais. What of these strangers, he will ask. Have you been well disposed to the folk they have met in our realm? Could it be that they are of suspicious nature? Here the audience will peer hard at the party. Those able to speak against them will shout charges. I accuse these adventurers of stealing the queen's property. Seize and search them. Of course, when Jack touched the unsuspecting characters just a moment before, he planted a pair of the begemmed creations on them. The nearby soldiers and childish servants, see map of the court and key, will move to hold and search the party as the king, queen, and the rest peer intently. The stolen tarts are discovered. Shock, dismay, horror, triumph, and vindication. Off with their heads, screamed the queen. Key to the map of the court. B. Baby, the Wereboar. See Area C in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. C. The Champion, Ace. CK, the Cook. See Area C in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. D. The Duchess. See Area C in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. DM. The Dormouse. See Area E in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. E. The Executioner. See Area I in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. G. Guard. H. Herald. K. The King. See Area I in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. MH. March Hare. See Area E in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. MHT. Mad Hatter. See Area E in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. P. The Prince, Jack. See above. Q. The Queen. See Area I in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. SM. Smilodon Cat. See Area D in Chapter 4, The Woods of Trees and Giant Fungi. WR. Childus as White Rabbit. See Area G in Chapter 3, The Tiny Garden. X. 4 Bullywogs. 4 Kuatoans. See Area B in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. Y. Childless two lizard men, and large porcupines. See Area M and N, respectively, in Chapter 3, The Tiny Garden. 2 to 7, numerically designated soldiers. See Area I in Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland. 8, Soldier 8. 9, Soldier 9. And 10, Soldier 10. Special non-player characters previously disposed of will not be present, but the various low-level creatures such as the bullywogs and lizardmen will be there, for these creatures could be replaced easily. Regardless of actual dialogue, the trial will eventually come down to this situation. The prince will always be able to plant incriminating evidence on two characters, and it will be absolutely impossible for the characters to detect his actions. The adventurers will be accused, the queen will shout for their execution, the king will call for the royal executioner, the duchess will echo off with their heads, and the non-human guards will begin rushing about in excitement. To add to the chaos, the Hatter and the Hare will attempt to dance, while the numerically designated soldiers from the north side of the court will attempt to rush over and help hold the new prisoners. Out will rush the executioner, down will come the heralds, while the champion not far behind. Ethereal but visible, the Smilodon cat will be everywhere. Baby will change to his werebore form, and the cook will come into the center of the area. What a confused mess. The party members will see that the prince is taking this opportunity to act. In the turmoil, he will move lithely to the table, scoop up the 8 gemmed encrusted works of art, and bound to the side door in the northwest area of the court. Jack, that knave, will be out of the room in a flash. If the party decides to stay and fight, then they will not be spared. Execution by beheading will be swift and sure, done on the spot. Wise players will opt to have their characters take advantage of the situation by attacking, using spells, and other forms of magic, and adding to the confusion however possible. If they act quickly and give it their all, they should be able to react to the prince's moves and make it plausible that they can follow him. If that party succeeds in getting out of the court, there will be no instant pursuit. As they come into the hallway of statues, they will see the prince disappearing through the doors to the west. Too late to do anything but follow, so follow they must. In the grand feast hall, they see nothing but one of the double doors to the south slammed shut. Again, they must follow. In the kitchen, there will be several staff lesser cooks and scullions. If threatened, one will quickly tell that the prince ran down the stairs to the cellar. When the party starts going down the steps, they will hear the last footfalls of their quarry far below. Obviously, the fleeing felon did not duck off the stairwells in the cellar, but went down to the dungeon level below. See map, place dungeon route of the fleeing prince. The guard post room is empty, but the party will discern faint footfalls fading towards the east. Looking down that long passageway, they will be able to see the running Jack, but he again rounds a corner. Flying after him, the characters will come to the torture chamber. Before their startled eyes will be two Prince Jack figures, one running up the passage to northwest, A, the other well along the passage to northeast, B. Which should they follow? A. This passageway curves gently westward to come out of the cliff just southeast of Area N on the map of Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland, at the spot indicated by a black cave mouth mark. If you are not planning to have your players go on adventuring in this series using the Land Beyond the Magic Mirror module EXE2, then you might wish to direct the party down passage B below. B. As noted above, this passageway takes the party back to Chapter 2, the Long Hall First View, but without the table, flagon, loaf, and doors. All that remains is a shaft in the ceiling. As soon as any character stands under this vent, he or she will be drawn inexorably upwards to wherever he or she first began the adventure. The Prince. What became of Prince Jack? The willy fellow used a pair of cards from his deck of illusions, the Jokers, in fact, to delude the pursuers into taking one or the other of the two passages. Meanwhile, Jack used his boots to spring up 10 feet to a barely discernible ledge at Area S. There, the prince opened a secret door and slipped into a hiding place of his. Unfortunately, in so doing, he dropped part of his remaining deck. If any character looks carefully at the floor, he or she will then discover that there are 4 to 24 cards there. See end of module for details of the deck of illusions. Chapter 5, The Wilds of Dungeonland again. This area will be reached if the party goes down Passage A above. N. Small boat on beach. From your higher position, you can see a small craft drawn up between sheltering dunes. Closer investigation reveals that it is a very well made long boat. It will easily hold all members of your party, and it is ideal for departure from a place where things have gotten rather sticky, shall we say. In fact, noise of falling pebbles alerts you to the fact that a lizardman, Coatoan, soldier, guard, who knows, the DM should pick an appropriate one, just looked out of the tunnel you followed to come here and hurried back. Undoubtedly, he will be back shortly with a host of guards, soldiers, and who knows what else to carry out the Queen's command for your beheading. The boat is most convenient, and the time to slip away is now. If the players are wise enough to take the hint and set out to sea, the current will quickly carry them out and then south into the bay of the land beyond the magic mirror. However, they could row the craft ashore on the map of Dungeonland and strike through the forest to some other area which they have already visited. If they elect to face the pursuit, the whole force of Corlin will fall upon them, but only part from the cave. The remainder will come from the east along the beach. Spellcasters will certainly use their power to full effect in attempting to slay the party. A fight to the death will be on. Afterward. This module is not, by any stretch of imagination, aimed at the player or DM who takes himself and the game too seriously. This is not to say that the scenario isn't exciting, that it will not challenge characters to their utmost, or that it cannot prove lethal, but that the module is meant to be a change of pace and that it is fun. It is presented in a light-hearted and zany spirit. In order to get in all the necessary details, however, not too much space can be devoted to really capture the true spirit of Dungeonland. Therefore, the gentle reader is urged to read Lewis Carroll's story, Alice in Wonderland. Read this book carefully. You might even find you enjoy sections sufficiently to reread them. Do this just before you begin having your players adventure in Dungeonland, and then really let yourself go. Monsters. Executioner's Hood. An executioner's hood is a small bag-like monster that has a unique method of capturing its prey. The monster crawls into some opening and awaits the entry of its victim. When the prey enters, the hood closes fast about the victim's head, inflicting 1 to 4 points of damage immediately, and a further 1 to 4 points of damage from strangulation and suffocation until the prey is killed or the monster is slain. Because of their propensity to surround the head, executioners' hoods are very difficult to slay. They are totally unaffected by sleep spells, and their attachment method, fibrous strands, causes their victim to suffer the same spell effects they suffer. Strong brandy, however, causes the monster to lose 1 point of damaging ability per round, and after 4 rounds the hood will fall off, intoxicated, if a full quart is poured upon it. Description: the monster looks almost exactly like an actual executioner's hood. Color is dull black, and there are 2 eye holes which actually can be used to see out of or into its cavity. The monster is about 1 inch thick. It can spread out into a disc form and has been known to hunt as a lurker. Hangman Tree. The hangman tree is named for its ropey appendages. These sinewy vines are noose-like at their ends and when dropped down appear much as they were hanging ropes. Hangman trees are deciduous and are found in temperate to subtropical climates. All are solitary. Their shallow root system and small leaf areas require them to supplement their nutrition by direct ingestion of protein. Thus, each tree can move very slowly once it's fully grown. Its effective movement is only a few feet per day. Saplings move about 6 feet per hour, mature trees about 1/3 that rate. All are solitary. During freezing weather, a tap root is put down and the tree is dormant. A hangman tree has no interest in any sort of treasure, and as each moves constantly, it is unlikely that any treasure will be found near one, although indigestible items will be expelled from the belly trunk periodically. The tree attacks by dropping its noose-like appendages around prey. Although each tree has 6 to 9 of these appendages, only 3 can be controlled at one time. A vine will sustain 13 to 20 points of damage before it is severed and destroyed. This is exclusive of damage to the tree proper. When in contact with a victim, the vines tighten each round, then lift up to 1,000 pounds the prey to the upper trunk opening. This special attack requires 4 full rounds. On the fifth round, the victim is dropped into the ascetic secretion within the barrel of the hangman tree's trunk. The victim will suffer 3 to 12 points of acid damage per round until dead. Then digestion takes place. Escape from the trunk stomach is nearly impossible because of shape growths which point down and inward. These surround the top opening. About 3 man-sized victims can fit within the tree's digestive cavity at one time. Each hangman tree can release an hallucinatory perfume that will cause the victim to believe that the tree to be of some ordinary sort, quickwood, trent, etc. A tree of this sort can speak haltingly in a common tongue as learned over the years. Each has a magical resistance based on its age, as it draws power from the environment. Lightning or electricity attacks will cause double damage. Extreme cold will shock the tree into dormancy until it thaws out. Darkness also causes it to slow down its activity, although it still functions at half efficiency. Description: a tree of this sort resembles a thick oak with few branches and sparse foliage. There are not like protuberances where sensory organs are usually high on the trunk. The lower trunk will show a scar-like place for expulsion of indigestibles. Magic items. Hat of Disguise. This normal appearing hat contains a powerful enchantment which allows its wearer to alter his or her appearance as follows: height, weight, sex, male or female, hair, eyes, complexion, or facial features. Thus, the wearer could appear as a commonly woman, a half orc, or possibly even a gnome. If the hat is removed, the Dwemer is instantly dispelled as far as the disguise is concerned. Note that the hat can be changed to appear as a comb, ribbon, headband, fillet, cap, coif, hood, helmet, etc. XP value 600, GP sell value 5,000 gold. Deck of Illusions. This set of parchment cards is usually found in an ivory, leather, or wood box. A full deck consists of 34 of these plaques. Drawing one at random and casting it out forms an illusion with edual and visual components, which lasts until it is dispelled. The illusory creature will not go more than 30 feet from the card, but it will otherwise move and act as if it were real. When the illusion is dispelled, the card becomes blank and cannot be used again. If it is picked up, the illusion is automatically and instantly dispelled. The cards are 2 Jokers, Illusion of Deck's owner; 4 A's, Red Dragon, Beholder, Lich, and Iron Golem; 4 K's, Fighter and 4 Guards, Magic User and 1 Apprentice, Cleric and 2 Underpriests, and Thief in 3 cohorts; 4 Q's, Succubus, Night Hag, Medusa, and Erinyes; 4 J's, Druid, Assassin, Monk, and Bard; 4 10s, Cloud Giant, Fire Giant, Frost Giant, and Etin; 4 9s, Hail Giant, Ogre Mage, Troll, and Ogre; 4 8s, Bugbear, Gnoll, Hobgoblin, and Orc; 4 2s, and half of them are goblins, and half of them are kobolds. Cards can differ or be missing. Illusions perform normal routines and respond to attacks, i.e., DMs are playing them as if they were real creatures. XP value 1,500, GP sell value 15,000 gold. Thank you for listening to this audiobook of Dungeonland, specifically chapters 5, 6, and extras. I hope you enjoyed and have a great day. Best regards, Reed.